Hey there folks, this is Johnny again, and you just heard Mercuriall's latest endeavor into amp simulation called Euphoria. And man, I think I have a new favorite amp simulator. So let's make a quick TLDR. And this plugin emulates the Bogner Ecstasy 101B something or other. Definitely in that kind of realm. And if you know Mercuriall, they go for accuracy instead of convenience. So they also model this amp very accurately, and as you can see also with all the switches it has available. So you may actually want to check out the manual for the actual amp. That helps out a lot. And now let's just try it out. You know what, let's start out with the default setup. So here we have nice clean tone. I apologize already if the volume of this is kind of all over the place. You'll see why the volume changes a lot throughout this video. So let's start out with our 3 channels. Right now we're on channel 1, which is clean. Channel 2 is a bit more crunchy. And then channel 3 is a bit more high gain. Gotta make sure the phase is there, then it sounds that much better. And from here, we can already go into some switches. So first of all, they included this mod for channel 3. Wait, I gotta check what it's actually called again. It's called the Cameron mod switch. Let's switch it on. You already notice it gets a bit more gain. And let's lower the volume here on the output of the channel. Not right now here on the digital output of the plugin, but here. We'll get into some of these finagly fiddly details in a little bit. Okay, let's go to the cabinet right away. Let's place it over here. For starters, I rather want to go to a trusty impulse response right here. Just to take a little bit of guesswork and filling out with the cabinet section. We'll also get into that in a little bit. Although when you know Mercuriall, you know their cabinet section. It sounds great and you can get a lot out of it. It's just my personal preference to start off with an impulse. So, and this is actually an impulse from Mercuriall, the 4x12 Mesa rectifier. I EQ'd it myself. I just took out 2K with a surgical EQ because it has a bit of a spike there, but otherwise this is pretty much raw sound. Okay, and we still notice, well, we could still use a little bit of gain. First of all, let's turn on our gate in here. I really like their gate actually. Turn down the attack and you're good to go. If you don't want it to be too tight, just lower the threshold a little bit and you're fine. Let's turn on an overdrive. Yeah, let's go with a trusty 808. Already getting there. And let's also go into some other switches here. First of all, there's a plexi mode, which, well, you can choose if channel 2 or channel 3 is supposed to have that plexi mode, which, well, makes it sound a bit more like a plexi. You already notice again, different volume output. But we want high gain right now. So, and with the volume being all over the place, that has nothing to do with the plugin itself. It is the amp itself that they are modeling. Again, they're going for accuracy, just to let you know. Now let's get into the structure knob here, which again changes the gain structure of that 3rd channel, or also it works for channel 2. Right now it's on low and on high. You notice, well, you have a bit more gain in there. And when you fiddle around with it a bit more, you notice it also sounds a little bit tighter than when you put it on loose. And you just boost the gain on loose. So there's a bit of a difference in your gain structure. And then, again on top of that, you can turn on a boost before this channel, so you get even more gain. And now you're really getting into high gain territory. Pretty nasty stuff. So, but let's turn off boost for now and let's use the overdrive instead. You already notice, very different character. And that's actually something I really like about this amp. You can get a lot of very different gain structures and distortion textures out of it. Especially when you fiddle around with the power amp section. Now that's the kind of versatility that I personally really like. Now this setup right here reminds me a little bit of the newer Trivium tone. Let's boost the treble a little bit. You gotta be careful with the treble knob. It tends to sound very nasty when you go overboard. Okay. Yeah. So there you have a bit more of a modern setup. Let's see if it gens. So let's do it like this. Let's put it all the way up. Then a bit more tighter threshold. Yeah, pretty much, but also you would have to go for an appropriate impulse response for that. This one right here would not be my go-to for a genty tone. But all in all, it does a modern tone very well. So let's tweak from here. Let's say we want to have a bit more of a gnarly, barky mid-range. Something that's not quite as modern. First thing I would personally do is switch to the SD1. And compared to the Tube Screamer, I feel like it doesn't roll off the low end as much and it doesn't boost the top end as much. And in that way, the result is that the mid-range sounds a bit more barky and a bit stronger. And now let's go into another switch here, pre-EQ. It does exactly what it says it does. It EQs the signal before it goes into that channel. Right now it's set on B1, which means bright one, which is brighter than N, which means normal or neutral. And then B2 is still even brighter than that. So let's set it to normal. So we don't have additional mid-range boosts and whatnot and brightness. Now let's boost the gain a little bit. Perhaps we need a little bit more on top end here. Ah, that's exactly my jam right there. I love it. Okay, now let's say, well, you want to quickly get a little bit more gain for leads. Well, turn up the boost knob. and then turn it back down. Perfect. Now what's interesting is we are already getting into one minor negative point. When you go to the audio section here, or the audio settings, then you see you can activate MIDI input for this. But as of right now, there is no way to actually set it up. So you cannot control this plugin, or actually right now I'm in the standalone version. But there are plans for that. So we just gotta sit tight. And I'm telling you, if this will be controllable via MIDI foot switch, be perfect, especially since you have a Y in here. Now, from here, we could go even farther into barkiness and spittiness and whatnot. And for that, the power amp section comes into play. So let's boost this quite a bit, but not all the way. When you go all the way, then any change you make gets completely flattened out and doesn't become very noticeable because the power amp section is just driven so much it covers everything else. So let's boost it substantially, but not too much. And then of course you got to turn down the output in here because it gets really loud. See? You already notice it gets a bit brighter because you have that extra saturation and distortion from that power amp section. And because of that, we also don't need as much drive or gain from our preamp. Let's turn down this one here. Additionally, let's turn off this boost and rather return to bright 1. You notice how nasty it starts to sound, but in a good way. I like that. And now we can check out what happens when we boost the presence knob. With this also, you don't want to go too crazy. Because then it mushes the whole tone. Of course, you could use that to very creative effects when we boost this thing here like madman. You could do something very doomy. Okay, not exactly what I would personally go for, so let's dial it down a little bit again. That should be plenty fine. And now we can also take a look at the switches back here, which take care of the power amp section and modifies a couple of stuff. For example, we can switch from class AB amplification to class A amplification, which sounds different. For one's quieter. But it's also brighter. And it behaves differently when you play around with the volume knob here of your channel. And then mode, new and old, switches between pentode and triode. So in old, you're in triode mode. That means that you're cutting a couple of sections in the power amp tubes, which cuts power, which again makes it behave differently. For one, it saturates earlier, and for another, the top end seems to be rolled off a little bit, makes it sound a bit sweeter and rounder, you could say. And then here we have Excursion A, which says how exactly the presence knob A behaves. Right now it's on medium, L stands for loose, T for tight. Check that out. I like medium. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds. In general, when you keep these default settings, you can't do anything wrong. If you wanted to play around a little bit, perhaps get a bit more of a Vox type sound, then you would switch to class A, put mode to old perhaps, and then your clean tones would get a bit more Vox-ish, for lack of a better word. So let's go on. Then here we have select B, which stands for presence knob B. And you also have excursion B, so you can set the second presence knob to a different setting. And then you can either tell, right now, no channel is going to presence knob B. You can either tell channel 1 to go to presence knob B, or you can tell channel 3 to go to presence knob B. Channel 2 stays at A, where it is. So you get a bit more versatility there. And now on top of that, of course, you have a couple of audio models here to your left. You can choose to go death metal. We have a chorus, we have delay, we have reverb. One thing I'm still personally missing is a post EQ. Like a parametric EQ with 4 bands, plus low pass and high pass filter. But that is also something that is in the plans. Now that we're talking about it, you might see from the layout, it looks like they're working towards a complete platform or a suite for their amp simulators. They have a whole bunch of amp plugins right now, and with each one, they include their cabinet section again, and then the pedals again and again. So I think this would make a whole lot of sense if they move towards a platform. Right, there's just everything in it. And then here in the preamp section, you could choose whatever amp they have available, or you could perhaps just buy individual amps that you actually want, and everything else is just in here. That's also something that is in their plans, but we are going to have to be patient and wait like good little puppies for that, and I would so much look forward to that. Now let's go to the cabinet section. Here again, this is pretty typical Mercuriall. Sorry if I'm shoving things around, the light is right in my face, I can barely see anything on my screen. So that's default setting. Fine, let's switch to trusty V30. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not very good at fiddling with cap settings and mic placements and whatnot. Oh, now that sounds good. Ooh. Yeah, very, very solid. I feel like this built-in cabinet section would sit in the mix much better because the low end is not quite as crazy, but it could probably benefit from a little bit of high shelving, boosting the high end, because it tends to be a little bit on the darker side. It could also be the amp itself or something, but then again, you could also boost the presence a little bit. When the output volume of the channel is that low, then the presence knob doesn't make the power amp section go too crazy. Yeah, so there you have it. Perhaps one more tip. If you want to get this plugin, here when you go to the UI renderer, down here in that little setting, choose software, not OpenGL. Because when you go to OpenGL, the CPU will be loaded quite a bit more. And of course we don't want that. So keep it on software and it will stay where it is. If you don't believe me, here let's check out the task manager. Here we have Euphoria as a standalone, as I told you. Right now it's averaging about 2.7%. Yeah, close around 3%. And then when we switch to OpenGL, you see that it's raising quite a bit. Perhaps not quite a bit, but definitely noticeably. And then when we go back to software, it's dropping again to around 3%, which is fine. I mean, it's also oversampling, so you have a bit more of a CPU usage. So this is perfectly acceptable. So I'm pretty much sold on this. I really like it. It has a very nice balance between a mono sound and also smudgier, dirtier, spittier sound, if you want to go for that. I personally really like that kind of versatility. Nowadays, I don't need to have dozens over dozens of amp modules in the complete suit, but I also don't want to be too restricted. So this is actually a perfect middle ground for me personally. And if that is something that you would like to go for, then I highly recommend you check this out. Of course, for the listener, pretty much any amp simulator these days sounds really good. But what's also important is how does it feel when you play it. And I think it feels amazing. It feels chunky. It feels so raw, so in your face. I love it. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope I presented this plugin well enough. And I shall see you next time.